This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
We are here today with a good friend of ours. We met through the podcast.
Yeah.
And he got in touch with us through email after that and gave some great advice, helped you so much with different things throughout the couple of years that we've known him.
Yeah.
And he's just become such a great friend to both of us. So
Has it been a couple of years already?
I believe so. Because
Okay.
it's, yeah.
Wow.
I know. Well, we had that chunk in there, that period of time where we didn't do the podcast when we moved and everything.
Yeah.
So it was like 2017 when we started. So anyway, pretty cool. So Richard, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we are so glad that you're on with us today because I think that you are going to help so many people. You're so insightful, and your ability to share the way that you do, it has helped both Josh and I so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so, because that's one of the things we talked about. Is one of the things I really want to do is I want to help out, and if there's anything that I can do to make someone's life a little bit easier, so they don't have to go through the same things I went through.
Right.
That's the best.
Right.
So.
Right. And you are 47 years old.
Yes.
And you have autism.
Mm-hmm.
And, Josh is 31, and we've talked on the podcast before about how Josh being 31 years old, they didn't have much information about autism back then. It was just starting to be understood, kind of. So that means that when you grew up, there was not a discussion about autism, was there?
No, there wasn't at all. And I think I was showing some signs, some really prominent signs of having autism, but no one would catch on to it. It wasn't until I was in my 40s where I was like, oh, this is something I have. Mm-hmm. And it was through a Facebook post, of all things. So the more that I was looked into, I was like, oh, this is what I got.
Did that change anything for you, having that diagnosis?
Yes and no. It was I think that it just kind of put a name towards it, and it was like, I guess for 40 years of my life, I thought that I was alone. Mm-hmm. That I was an alien. I just wish that my mothership would come back and pick me up because, this backwards planet here.
Yeah. Yep.
Come take me home. But, when I figured out that, I wasn't as alone as I thought I was, that mm-hmm. people have the same things, it made things better. Right.
Does that resonate with you, Josh? I know you were diagnosed as a young boy, but as an adult now, mm-hmm. does it help you to have the diagnosis?
It does. It does, because I can actually look and pinpoint exactly what's autism and what's just me being a jerk sometimes. But no.
Boom.
Yeah. No. No. It has helped because It's helped me become more introspective and understanding why I do, not necessarily why, but what things I do are because of autism, and it helps me become more introspective about myself.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. For me, the mom, when you got diagnosed, for me it was shocking, it was scary, and it was a relief, all combined, because nobody up until that point, because it's easy to label somebody that has characteristics maybe that are just a bit different, mm-hmm. as labeled as something that's negative.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening with you in school.
Yeah. Like, I remember one of my teachers was just didn't like me at all. Mm-hmm. And I really still don't know if it was because I was having difficulties because of autism or if she just didn't like me.
Yeah, and you know what? It didn't matter because we got her fired. Let me just say this. She was caught dragging you by your arm down the hall.
Oh.
In a very rough way. She would also had other students hit you in class. And that is not going to happen. And so we pushed that all the way to where she got removed.
Wow.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's happening way too much in this world. And,
yes,
just because we're different, we have the right to live, happy, fulfilling lives,
Agreed. Yes, absolutely. And you shouldn't have to conform to what anybody else thinks you should be. It makes me so mad when with that train of thought. It just makes me so mad. Right now I'm getting mad. Just talking about it. I'm thinking about
Deep
this.
Breath.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't picture you being mad when you're wearing those glasses right now.
Oh, sorry. Hey, I'm wearing my dollar store reading glasses that are vibrant blue. I got it going on. Oh, man.
So, if you don't mind me asking, then, now that you're on the podcast, how is it that how have relationships been for you?
It was a rough start, and I think that part of the problem is that it is not just for people that are on the spectrum, but in general, you have to find the right person for yourself. So the way that what I've learned is that you have to find someone that kind of works with your weaknesses and also enjoys them as well. So,
right.
And I think that some of us have been into the types of relationships where it's like they breathe wrong and you're going, oh God, that's they're driving you up the wall. That little nose whistle that they have. Oh my God. And yeah, so we have some things that are kind of a deficit, but also we have several strengths as well. So it's finding the right person that will enjoy those strengths and weaknesses and everything about you, and work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you found that person?
Yes.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
And it took a lot of pitfalls and bad things that happened in my life, but I got through it, and I am where I am, and I'm happy now.
Yes. Wow. Good for you.
Yeah.
So happy.
Yeah.
So happy to hear that. And how long have you been married?
3 years. Almost 3 years.
Cool. I it's funny that you talk about the things that either. An example is I lose my glasses daily. And not just daily, but multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And I mean, my reading glasses, my dollar store reading glasses, and my sunglasses. And without fail, I go outside and then have to come back in looking for my sunglasses. Mm-hmm. And
she could have had them in her hand just a second before leaving, and then she loses them.
and I bring that up because that could either make Dave crazy, right? The fact that I do the same thing, this forgetful, like this losing my glasses daily, that could make him crazy. But instead, just yesterday when it happened, he said, "That's my girl."
See, he loves you and your little quirks.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that's what you're saying, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Marriage is kind of like a series of compromises. Josh looked at me like that puppy where he turns their head sideways. What I mean by that, Josh, is that there's give and take all the time.
Okay.
And like Richard's saying, recognizing that people aren't the person you're married to is not perfect, but you just go with it, and you sometimes have things your way and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
And you try to reach a compromise, which is something that's I have a question about that, because Josh, I think that's something that you've worked on a lot, is compromising. And right, like you have a way of doing things. You want it done that way. And if somebody has a different idea of how it should go, it can be upsetting to you because you like it. You can't possibly see that outcome is going to be a good one.
Right. A perfect example of this would be school projects. Like, the most recent example I can think of was also one of the earliest examples.
Okay.
The egg dropping contest thing, where you try and cushion an egg from a certain fall or something like that, and prevent it from actually breaking.
Right.
And I remember I was part of a team on both times. And the first time, I got really bent out of shape because no one seemed to want to do my ideas. And I was shocked when their idea mostly worked.
Right?
Yeah. But getting to that point was so difficult because I had an idea that in my head would work, and no one was really listening to what I was saying.
But at the same time, you didn't see how their idea would work because you had your own idea.
Right.
So, in marriage, that's something that can cause big time trouble.
Yeah.
So has that been something that was?
Well, let me finish my example then.
Okay.
So, going to the more recent time when we did this project, what I've learned through experience, I actually implemented. And that is, don't just say that it's my way or the highway. Say, this is my idea. Can any of you guys come up with alternatives that could make it better?
Okay.
And then explain your reasoning to me.
And what if they said no?
Then they're not being a team player. No.
Well,
No,
right, but like we can. Richard, in your case, you're married to that team player, right? So do you run into that often, or how have you overcome that if that was an issue for you through your life?
Yes, I have run across that. In fact, it's going to be all over, and no matter what relationships you're going to have, whether it's a friend, whether it's a schoolmate, whether it's your wife or your husband or whatever. Let's just say that in Josh's situation, sometimes, sometimes you just got to let it go, and there's several ways of doing one thing. And your way might be right, but their way could be too. And if in Josh's situation here, if they don't listen, sometimes it's just kind of fun to take a step back and watch the chaos. If it doesn't really affect you, in your life, then sometimes it's like, it's good to kind of sit back and just watch it happen. And there could be a "see, I told you so," or in Josh's situation, there could be a possible learning situation. So,
right, is that something that you learned to get to that point? Because I know when Josh was growing up, that took quite a while for him to get to the point that he just described. Because before that, it could literally cause a meltdown if it didn't go the way that he thought that it should.
Yeah, and I think part of the meltdown is like the lack of control that you feel when people are not listening to you. And yeah, sometimes unless it's really affecting you, it's just good to let that kind of stuff go. So, and that is pretty tough. It was pretty tough for me at first, and then it just kind of became easier with time. There are still sometimes, like I had a situation where I got something in the mail that I thought was a scam, and because of this whole COVID thing, the unemployment, I was laid off, and we're going through unemployment and going through all that stuff. I had some paperwork that came in, and I thought it might have been a scam, and it kind of looked like it. My wife said no, it was not a scam, and I was practically in a panic, thinking that it was, and I was not comfortable with it. So what my wife did is she gave us some time, had us look at it, had a process in my head a little bit more, and figured out that she was right. It was not a scam, and it was something that I needed to complete. So
what she did, she that's really awesome to hear, because she knew what you needed, which was some time to process that, which is something that folks on the spectrum need, that extra couple beats to process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not going to be perfect because, she, in her mind, had said that, yes, it was what we needed. And then she figured out that, okay, I'm having an issue with it, but it took a little bit of time to get to that point. And part of it is communication, and listening as well.
So
listening to your partner's needs.
So what you're saying is that in the beginning she didn't realize how stressed you were about it?
Yeah, I don't think she quite realized it. And yeah, I really don't think that she really had an idea until I started to really kind of tell her that I'm having an issue with this.
Yeah. And
it kind of took a little bit in her head to realize that, okay, that it's more of an issue than she thought it was.
Right. I mean, that's a good way to handle to behave in any marriage. That's just kind, and smart. So yeah, good for you. I'm sorry that you're going through that. That just is, it's a stressful time. I'm sorry that you're going through that with your job and the stress of dealing with unemployment.
It's for me, it's not as bad, but I know that a lot of other people are going through a lot worse. There's still some issues that we're running into, but it's nothing to do with our relationship. This is more of the outside, of what's going on there. But we're doing pretty good considering. I just hope and pray that everyone else is, hanging in there and doing all right.
Yeah, me too. Something that you just brought up was communication and how important that is. One of the things that Josh and I, we talk a lot about communication and how it's important for him to express how he feels. I'm always asking him, how does this feel? How does that feel? What's going on? And sometimes in a conversation, there was one time in particular, he says to me, because we're kind of getting heated in the conversation, and he goes, what do you want me to say? And his dad goes, oh, buddy, You don't say that to a woman. Richard, you're laughing because you know.
Yeah. Well, and things just kind of come out sometimes. It's not like you mean it to be a negative thing. And I do that too. I still do that too. Well, and that could be a negative thing that your partner has to realize that you're gonna be blunt and 100% honest. And sometimes it comes out in a not so positive a way. That might just.
Yeah. Well, what I thought was interesting about that is that Josh was literally wanting to know what he needed to say. So he and the way that this is the difference when I'm talking about sometimes that where he is so literal, and I'm interested in this with you in your marriage when you're being literal in something. So in that case that I just said, he wasn't being disrespectful. He wasn't being mean. He was really truly wanting to know. Breaking it down even further is, does he need to participate in this portion of the conversation? Do I need to say something? What do you want me to say? What do you?
What am I supposed to say?
What am I supposed to say? So it wasn't one of those things like, what do you want me to say? Just so you'll get off my back.
Right.
But Dave stepped in and a life lesson. Josh. You have relationships with women. That's probably not what you want to say.
But that's part of the issue too. Is that there's these little white lies that a lot of the neurotypicals kind of tell, and that's way harder for us to do. Hey, honey, does the stress make my butt look fat? Kind of thing. We will say yes, it does. Not Matt and I. Just. So if you don't like that honesty, don't marry an autistic person.
That kind of reminds me of like the neurotypical thing of how are you doing?
Exactly.
Yeah, with the neurotypical answer being
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm doing fine. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoiler alert for all the autistic people out there, the answer is always fine. No matter how you're doing, the answer is fine.
So yes.
That's just what you do, apparently.
Is that something that you had to learn?
Yes. I was in a job at one time, and someone said, "How you doing?" And I told him how I was doing. And he said, TMI. It's like, you asked. So it was then I just kind of realized that, it's not one of those things that I should get into. When someone asks me how I'm doing, you don't go into it. So that was my learning point.
Yeah. And it's exactly that, right? You learn as you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Another question that I wanted to ask you about is that Josh has had a hard time staying connected with people. So even people that he really values and cares about, it won't occur to him to give them a call, to stay in touch with them. And when you're married, that, the person you're married to kind of expects an investment of that sort. And I'm wondering, is that something that comes easy for you?
Well, there's two different things, really, because, keeping in contact and calling on the phone, it's terrible for me. But I don't know exactly what it is that makes it difficult for me to reach out and call on the phone, because, maybe it's partially, these people don't want to talk to me, or, maybe now's not a good time, or there's always some kind of excuse that goes on through your head, but your partner is there, sometimes 24/7, in our case, it's 24/7 right now.
Right, because you're not working.
So, and, she realizes that I'm going to need my time, and I, kind of hibernate at times, but
and it's also the case where it's where you can physically see them versus you're not able to physically see them.
Exactly.
How does that work different for you?
What do you mean?
So so what I'm asking specifically is that for you, I brought up you calling somebody. So if they're not there right in front of you, you don't necessarily think to give them a call. What I'm wondering about with Richard is that even though she's right there, does he have to work at reminding himself to ask how she's doing, or just like you would call somebody and say, "Hey, you were on my mind. How you doing?" Even though he sees her every day, is it how through the years that you've learned to do things even though they didn't come naturally?
Mm-hmm.
That, Richard, that's what I'm asking you. Did you have to kind of learn how to check in with her to see how she's doing, to have that kind of connection that helps her to feel valued?
Not necessarily, because for me, I guess one of the things about what they say about autistic people is that they don't feel very much.
Right.
And really the opposite is true. Mm-hmm. So it's like,
you feel too much.
With me, it's like my hearing is, a lot stronger than most. My smell is, my feelings, are twice as strong. So when something is wrong with her and like she's in a bad mood, I feel it twice as strong. Mm-hmm. So, there's plenty of times where it's like quite the opposite, where it's like I'm asking her how's she doing? Is there something wrong? Is there something going on? Because I feel something.
Right. Yeah.
So it's quite the opposite of that, where I don't have to always, or at least write it on my schedule book or something like that. Ask my wife how she's doing, kind of thing. It's always there for me, and I think that's part of the difference between phone calls versus being there. Right. Like with you, Josh, with your mom, do you feel like when she's under pressure or stressed or happy, or what do you feel?
I tend to ignore her. No, no,
well, she's your mom.
Hey!
No, honestly, I know whenever she's not in a good mood. I know whenever she is in a good mood. I know when she's happy and different things like that. And I know when I should bother her with something and when I shouldn't, most of the time.
Right, so you're at least in tune with that. So it's not like you have to ask her, hey, Mom, how you doing?
Yeah, but even then, it not only is it a nicety, it's nice to know that I'm right and that she is okay, or that I'm right and she is not okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like if my mom, for example, she lives in another state. It's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to
know that.
Since I'm not there, it's kind of hard to know that.
Yeah.
Is she having a bad day? Is she having a good day right now?
Yeah.
So, like in that case, for example, I don't, we don't talk on the phone that much, except for we try to schedule it in a sense. I know this sounds a little weird, but if we don't schedule it, we don't say, hey, we're going to talk every week. Sometimes months can go by and we don't say anything. So you have to make it part of like a pattern in the system.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to call every other Saturday or something like that.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's like, again, months will go by, and that's happened between my mom and I.
Yeah. I know that with me, sometimes I just want to talk to people that I realize I haven't talked to in a long time. So I just go down my contact list and start calling people.
Well, one of the things too, Josh, the reason I think that you know how I'm feeling is that
You're not yelling at me?
well, no, we communicate. Just shaking my head at you, boy. Is that I've learned to communicate effectively with you. So I've learned, to use the words that you would understand, and to help you connect. This facial expression means this. This one means this.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy for you with other people.
Right.
Especially if people, like he said about the white lies, that people tell about the good in the dress, to make you look fat. But, you're telling us to wrap it up?
Yeah, battery's almost dead.
Oh, Richard, Josh is saying the battery on the recorder is almost dead here. Yeah, so that's something that you're still learning about, Josh, is the really understanding what other people are feeling if you don't know them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that do we have time to keep going?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. So, Josh, I think that you recognize what I'm feeling and what kind of mood I'm in just because we know each other so well and because I've learned what you need.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's probably difficult for you at times to read other people that you don't know so well. So if somebody says something, because you take everything literally.
Yeah, well, not everything, but yeah. Mm-hmm. But even then, with you even, I sometimes have difficulty reading you. Just because there's some scenarios where I don't know what to do.
Right. And that's when you ask me, does this require a response?
Yeah, and if so, what kind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Is that something that you do in your relationship sometimes, Richard? Have you gotten just really good at understanding your wife?
Yeah, and there's going to be miscommunications no matter what.
Right.
And
yeah.
And yes, I take things very literal. Mm-hmm. To the point where she makes a joke, and I'm like, I took it literally.
Right.
So part of that's trying to backtrack and ask, did you mean that? Did you mean that in a literal way?
Yeah, that makes me wonder. Josh says inappropriate jokes all the time. Do you do that too?
Well, sometimes. But again, my wife does kind of the same thing sometimes. Sometimes she has this, and again, it's those little quirks that make you love the person. But
yeah.
Sometimes she doesn't have a volume switch, and when she's out in public, and it's not like not really a volume switch, but like sometimes the things come out. It's like, oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah,
it makes things interesting and fun as well. So
right. Right. Well, it's wonderful that you have found your person.
Yeah.
And just so happy for you. And Josh and I are so grateful for you coming on the podcast today. Josh is doing this thing now to me where he's saying, I gotta go. We can't do any more. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. But it means so much to both Josh and I that you've come on the podcast and shared what you have. I think it's going to be helpful to a lot of people listening.
Yeah.
You have a lot of insight, and I'm so grateful for you sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Appreciate it. I appreciate you, but you have me on here.
Oh, yes. Well, we'll do it again if you're up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be up to it, for sure.
Okay, all right.
Cool.
That's great. And
if you guys have any more questions for me, just let me know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure we will. You're very insightful, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So Josh is saying we gotta go. So, hey, everybody, you can find us on SonyaKing.com. You can find us on YouTube, on iTunes, all kinds of places. Please give us a 5-star review. We appreciate that. check us out. And we want to first and foremost thank you, Richard, for being on the podcast with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
It's great to be here.
We'll talk to you soon, everybody. Love you.
Bye.